Thank you so much for your patience. I appreciate that.
2:30, right?
Sorry about that.
So general analogy for the entire crypto market.
Right. Hey everyone, my name is Thomas McInerney. I'm Chief Product Officer at the OpenFinance Network. We are a broker-dealer ATS trading platform for tokenized securities. So we've been in development for about a year and a half. Launched our beta in July and then started live trading in December. So here to give you a little bit of a background on where we've come from, what we've learned, and hopefully do a demo and then open up to some Q&A afterwards. So we started a few years ago as CFX Markets. It was a trading platform for alternative assets. We dealt a lot pretty much entirely on the traditional side. So lots of paper, extreme inefficiencies we were running into, and saw OpenFinance as just a blockchain really as a great way to address all these problems we were finding. 8-week clearing and settlement for some of these things, extreme transfer costs, all these middlemen. A lot of the alternative asset industry and private securities in general still use a gold medallion stamp. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. It's lots of paper back and forth. We were actually dealing with. So OpenFinance started no we did a small venture round back in October 2017 and just completed our raise last month for OpenFinance.
What was your raise?
So we were doing, we did about 25. This is the team. There's a few others on here, but we're growing pretty quickly. Most of us are here in Chicago, a few in LA, and the compliance team, broker-dealer ATS is in New York. So very engineering focused right now, but expanding on business development, marketing. So if you know people, send them my way. I touched on investment a bit. We've had investment from all over the world. Decent interest out of Asia, the Middle East, London, Europe, and then a lot of, say about 50% US, 50% globally. We've been onboarding investors. I think we're at probably 20,000 users, something like that now. And a good amount of them are pretty active. The OpenFinance ATS was approved back in June. I think the July 1st ATS report was the first time it came out, and we, to my knowledge, the first ATS created specifically for trading digital securities. So some of the other competition in the area, they've been acquiring and upgrading theirs, but we built ours from scratch. So it took quite a bit of time, but glad that's all squared away. And we've built a huge partner network. So working with a ton of issuance platforms, broker-dealers in the space, smaller investment banks, and there's our partner ecosystem there. So Athena, as you can see at the top, and then Securitize, Harbor, Polymath, TokenSoft, Republic, Atomic, Aperture, Swarm, Issuance, Abacus, and Slice are all primary issuance platforms. So through them, we generated a pretty solid pipeline of 300-ish tokens looking to list. And we think this year will be very, very popular for the ecosystem. So pretty excited for what's to come. This is a roadmap basically leading up to where we are today, kind of right in the middle. We've been able to stick to our timeline pretty well. From the beta until now, everything's gone pretty smoothly. I think once we hit that compliance stride, and tech has been a breeze. So looking to pretty much just start expanding with users and more product on the platform. So CFX has worked with a lot of these traditional brokers and custodians, issuance portals, regulators, obviously, and then transfer agents. We'll get into in a little bit, though, that the awesome parts about blockchain and building on Ethereum helps us eliminate the need for a lot of these. There's certainly a regulatory requirement depending on what sort of securities you're trading, but things like transfer agents, custody for retail investors, securities clearing is all done completely in an automated fashion. So this is a bit hard to see, but you can take a look at the PowerPoint after. This is the entire security token ecosystem, or pretty much it. This came out in November. It's really grown and really expanded. There's tons of new players in the space, and you can see even some big players are starting to enter as well. Coinbase, Goldman's Circle just bought Poloniex, or not just, but a few months ago. They're looking to move into the space. And we've had conversations with Huobi as an investor, so I think they're the third largest crypto exchange. Binance is the largest, and yeah, tons of actual product coming out too. So we've seen offerings from artwork to real estate all across the board. And the ATS is set up for Reg D, Reg S, Reg A+, CF, REITs, equity and debt. Although surprisingly, we've only seen equity offerings so far. We thought that would be pretty popular at first, but yeah, not too much of that. Just a quick rundown on exemptions. I thought that would be nice we'll cover that now, but something to take a look at later on. In the traditional transaction lifecycle, public equities, you're seeing T+2. Private securities, like I was saying, we can see up to 8 weeks. But you have all these intermediaries and middlemen that are really drive up the cost of transfer, and in a paper-based trading system really slow down the transfer times. So we've been able to eliminate, blockchain just in general cuts out the clearinghouse and the securities depository, just being a distributed public ledger, and makes fund administration, transfer agent even easier to facilitate. The transfer agent pretty much too, I think, can eventually go away. But yeah, this kind of shows that a little bit more. A lot of the stuff that we're working on is open source and non-proprietary. So we've leveraged open systems like Ethereum to continue building out our system. The proprietary stuff, the actual exchange infrastructure, is all off-chain. But I think we'll start to see like a lot of stuff will go that way. Certain things like identity matching is just not meant for a public blockchain. So our first big product that we came out with was S3, the Smart Security Standard. This is a smart contract library that holds all of the, basically allows you to bring the securities on chain. And it boils down to 3 basic parts. The interface, so what you're used to, like your ERC20, it allows for standard interoperability among trading platforms, custodians, individual user wallets. The compliance layer, so this is where the rules are actually being enforced. We can differentiate between Reg S, Reg D. If someone's doing a Reg A+, or even we've had actually interest from just different jurisdictions, like Hong Kong-based securities can easily just swap that out and create private securities all across the globe. And then the data layer is basically your automated cap table management. So this everything's done on chain. You don't see sensitive private information, but it does allow you to easily manipulate who's holding what. That being said, we're actually not in issuance or anything on the primary side. So we had originally started as a full end-to-end platform, but we quickly realized by partnering with people like Blockchain, like Securitize, we can leverage their networks and focus on the stuff that we're really good at, which is secondary trading. So this has evolved to be what we find as the best practices from a secondary trading perspective. There's these are just a sample of some of the partner protocols we're working with, but just there, it's we have eight different protocols that people have sort of suggested or smart contract libraries, and we're finding there's certain things are much better suited for than others. When gas comes into play, like on a public network like Ethereum, some are much more expensive to transfer than others, so it won't be scalable, I think, for some people who learn pretty quickly, and that's what S3 is sort of designed to fix, is to get everybody kind of on the same page. Investor Passport is our answer to on-chain AML, KYC, suitability, and accreditation. So none of the data is actually stored on-chain. It is stored off-chain on our private servers. But we found that, I think people will start to realize too, is the sensitive information doesn't really have a place on a public blockchain. So there's a certain layer of information like transaction dates, amounts, what type of security, that certainly does. But this basically will become the single sign-on of the security token industry. And we've had a few people start to plug into it already. Just a quick, I won't spend too much time here because we're going to do a trading demo, but we are live. We have a few things trading. Pairs are in USD, so this is a little bit different from what other people are doing. We saw USD pairs as the fastest way to get through the regulatory approval process. So when you create a bank account, or when you create an account with OpenFinance, we open up a bank account with Evolve Bank, and you are clearing the cash clears instantly, since it's Evolve Bank to Evolve Bank, and then the security tokens obviously are clearing instantly as well, and those settle in 10 confirmations. So right now, average that's 80 seconds on Ethereum, and that until the cash is in your account and the tokens are transferred to the other person. So a little bit quicker than 8 weeks.
Did I understand correctly? So you're saying that you can onboard the US dollar, you open up bank accounts, and is that like an FDIC insured?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So yeah, we've got listings coming up. I think in the next couple months, we'll see probably 12, hundreds more in the pipeline for this year. Yeah, and so more on funding. Synapse handles the conversions and the peer-to-peer trading. Evolve Bank is where everybody opens an account, so it is FDIC insured. And our partner Wire, WYRE, allows us to accept ETH withdrawals and deposits. So you send in money, you send an ETH, it's converted to USD at the middle market exchange rate, and then deposited in your Evolve Bank account. So this actually makes us competitive with your Coinbases and Gemini, because this becomes an ETH onboarding mechanism. And I think 90% of our funding to date has been in Ether. And they do have support for BTC. We'll probably be adding that in the next month or so, hopefully. This also, USD, we saw as a great advantage for onboarding traditional users. People who are maybe have not yet bought Bitcoin or any other crypto, but are interested in digital securities and tokenized securities and what they can do there. So it's a nice middle ground. I think eventually we will do some sort of stable coin or ETH pair, but that's probably a little bit farther out. We are non-custodial. That's weird. Let's go.
It's okay because it's showing you on others.
Oh, you see it? Okay.
Yeah.
So we're non-custodial right now. We operate with browser wallets, which is MetaMask. Yeah, or you can use Parity. So this is users are self-custody. we think there's a huge advantage in the long run over for self-custody, but what we're finding out is that not everybody is comfortable with browser wallet or extensions because it doesn't really give a good user experience, and at a certain level you need to have a qualified custodian handle everything. We have an interesting implementation coming up where we will have a qualified custodian, and we think with using a multi-sig model, this should satisfy everything. And even in talks with some large firms about insurance. That's what I think is really the game changer in crypto and in digital securities is insurance, and that's kind of the key piece of the puzzle that's missing. So on one side of things, you have third-party custody and your legacy custodians, and then on the other side of things, there's the non-custodial wallets, which we've implemented now, but we're looking for something, I think, a little bit more towards the center. The public versus private blockchain debate, something interesting we came across. So we originally developed OpenFinance as a private permissioned sidechain. This basically meant you had to get approval to join the network, and only certain people like broker-dealers or other middlemen could. We quickly found that this created walled gardens and didn't really bring that many benefits to what we would lose from a public blockchain. So public networks bring interoperability, economic incentive, reduce the need for some of the more redundant middlemen like your transfer agents. There we go. That's the previous slide. Or clearinghouses. And the interoperability, I think, is a key thing for, especially early on. There's, I think, 8 or a dozen announced security trading platforms coming out. And I actually think it's good for us because they're not really who we're competing against. We're competing against the legacy providers, and the stronger the ecosystem is, the more we can take from them. Obviously, the issue with throughput is still a concern for public blockchains, but I think the upcoming scalability solutions that we should see in Constantinople with Ethereum, and then other blockchains are addressing it as well, will solve a lot of these issues. So it's a little bit slow, I think. 8 seconds now is what we're seeing, but matching is instant since it's off-chain, and our settlements or every time you're updating your allowance, that can be a little bit slower, but it hasn't been too much of a user experience issue yet. So we're happy with the public chain for now. And then the OpenFinance token. We did a security token raise, Reg D, Reg S, built on S3. This comes with basically it's a security with utility. It comes with your 10% quarterly dividend, but it also is holders of the token receive a reduction on trading fees, so 50% reduction on both sides. This creates basically incentive for anyone using the platform to hold the token. And of course, it's tradable on us forever. So a little bit, yeah, and then a little bit of a cost or trader profit equation down there. And that's it with the presentation. I wanted to do a quick demo before we jump into the questions and kind of start going from there. So. Let me try and move. Martin, can you see that up there?
Yeah, it's popping up on here.
There we go. So that was basically the last slide. Just be away.
If I answer these comments, is that going to? There's comments here, but I don't want to touch anything and disturb anything. Okay.
I guess I could just. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So here we go. I've logged in. This is the landing page that you'll. Oh, there we go. Is that?
Yeah. Is that it?
Yep. That's it. Okay. So I've logged in already. This is the landing page. Just kind of quick. To know your status. I think we're seeing our approval status has gotten a lot better. So you a little bit longer for international residents, U.S. residents, you're able to go through pretty quickly. Interestingly enough, Canadians are not allowed to trade. There's I think you need provincial approval in each Canadian province for your U.S. broker dealer. So it's a bit a few more hoops we have to jump through.
Screen on yours.
But yeah, I'll go through the rest of the platform before going to the trading screens, and then we'll look at how that works. So here's the dashboard. You get a quick overview of your portfolio, what assets you own, and what quantity. This is basically just querying your wallet. That's your MetaMask, and so that will also give you your USD balance. So I've got this is just a staging environment, but $10,000 there. There we go. So I just switched over my.
Wait, so right now, guys, you guys are connected, or you can connect via MetaMask too.
Yeah. So you see here, actually, this error comes up. So when you go through that investor passport process, you register a wallet address with your identity, so you can't use more than one wallet right now. This is just the way that all the security tokens right now work. It's basically a whitelisting functionality that they whitelist those addresses, and then we reconcile the identities at the end of the day via our API. Yep, so that's for the account. So I had, you see there, I switched over, so we do have the ability for entities to register as well, and then you can assign permissions. So we have a number of funds signed up, or once we get a market making program. You see the trading activity down here. Lets you know that your assets are transferring. Profile. This is where you submit your KYC docs, proof of residency. If you become accredited, you can submit information there. Update your information if you move, and add bank accounts. But that actually brings you to your trading wallet. So right now I'm registered as an international user, so I can wire in or use or deposit in Ether. And to be honest, I'm not sure why you would want to wire it. It still comes with a traditional banking fee of $55 internationally, when Ether is 6 cents. But ACH is an option as well. I think Ether will be and continues to be and will be the most popular option. And then withdrawal. So Ether is pretty close to instant. I think it's also 10 confirmations for withdrawals. The deposits are about the same. USD is if you're pulling out to a bank account, it's I think about 3 days. Just a help section, and we are open 24/7, 365. So we've got a decent staff. I think 5 or 6 folks in the Philippines handling our overseas or overnight support hours. And you'll see a lot of the traditional fee schedules and trading agreements there as well. So here we are at the trading screens. So these are actually 2 replicas of what is currently trading today, Blockchain Capital and Spice VC. I'll go ahead and place first a sell order for just a single token, so you can see how that works there. You'll be prompted with this ticket, and we do have commissions waived for the next few months, so check it out. This will bring you over to MetaMask. Confirm you're basically setting an allowance here to allow OpenFinance to transfer the tokens on your behalf. A lot of DEXs work this way. I think Xerox protocol, everything built on that. You'll see this. It's very, very similar. And this is just this is actually the maintenance. So it's just going a little slow. It looks like right now, but that will pop up. Yeah. So I talked about throughput a little bit earlier, but that which is it's good for us, but kind of annoying that the big bottleneck is the Ethereum mainnet. So placing trades right now, while they go through immediately on our end, you can sometimes have to wait a little bit for on-chain confirmation. Not the end of the world, but the whole finality and single source of truth can kind of slow down.
So what's the worst case? Minutes?
I haven't seen, it depends what your gas price is. With safe gas, which is about 6 cents, I haven't seen anything more than 30 seconds for confirmation. But that's confirmation. The matching is basically instantaneous. And then a buy. So the buy side is you don't have to set the balance. That will go through classic exchange interfaces. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's OpenFinance.
That's amazing. That looks great.
So, yeah, I'd love to. I did have a couple kind of general questions, but I'd love to just open it up to feedback. Let's see what everybody's thoughts were.
So how many tokens do you have on right now?
We have 2 trading live. So the Blockchain Capital is open to U.S. and international investors. Spice VC is trading to international, and they opened May 1st, I think, to U.S. And we are open to accredited, non-accredited, international. Anyone can sign up, and you'll be limited in what you have to trade based on who you are. But eventually, I think there'll be a number of dynamic markets. So even if you're a non-accredited U.S. person, they'll be fine for you to trade.
API access?
Yeah, we have a brokerage API in production and building out either a fixed or socket for trading data and placing trades. And then we are trade reporting API as well. So that nightly we're reconciling the KYC data with all the issuers.
Do you have portfolio margining or anything available to, accredited investors?
Working on it. Yeah. Not currently.
And so right now everything is kind of gated, fully collateralized.
Yep. It took us about 1.5 years to get the SEC coming just over here. So I think that's yeah.
Where's your server? Where are your servers located? What data center?
And
in the Northeast?
For all the off-chain stuff, right? We have a dedicated server for the exchange server, and then user information is another. There's on these instances. And of course, the Ethereum component as well.
We were talking to an exchange that has started to launch some kind of lookalike securities to U.S. exchanges, like tokenized IBM or whatever.
Yeah.
Is there any thought about launching anything like that, or are you prohibited from this?
Basically, we've asked our lawyers. It's kind of a gray area. So Swarm Fund has worked on a lot of that. I know DX Exchange is doing some of that. I don't see it as any different really from basically you're creating a fund, right? And token shares of that.
Right.
What Swarm Fund told me is that they basically got cease and desist letters from Coinbase, and I think they did maybe Robinhood, but buying up pre-IPO shares and then tokenizing them, and they basically told them to take a hike, and they said they didn't do anything.
So they got cease and desist letters from the brokers.
From the issuers.
For the issuers.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
And they're still going with that. So I think unless we get unless our legal team or the SEC tells us not to, we'll probably list that stuff.
How do you deal with income taxes, 1099s, and other things?
So we do have reports are auto-generated. We have a whole kind of report center, making that available to the user on demand, but we send those out. We'll send those out quarterly for basically, like the issuers right now are getting everything every night, but we'll have a reporting center for users to access their own stuff as well.
So they're accessing the trades and capital gain.
Yeah. We send. I think the regulators get the Form T. I think it's once a week or might be once a day. I'm not quite sure. But everything from Form Ts to basic trade reports to user-specific information.
I think you was sort of following that the Evolve Bank and
Yeah.
Can you explain that one more time?
Sure. So when you go through a full KYC process with us, our broker dealer is covering that, and then we also submitted to Evolve Bank to open up an account there, so that pairs can be done in USD. That also gives you an FDIC insured.
Where's Evolve Bank? Is it?
They're based in California.
You mentioned something about 10% quarterly dividends
Yes.
for any token holders. Can you please elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, so that's gross adjusted revenue. Basically, it's gross profit. There's a few things we're giving for early token holders, but knowing that the revenue is going to be a little bit less in the first couple of years.
How are those 10% covered though? Is it from?
It's from all trading revenue, issuer onboarding. So we charge listing fees yearly, and then we're looking at a subscription model too later on with other brokers to pump out our books.
Is all your company stock tokenized right now, or are you?
We
what's
did.
the structure behind it?
No, it's separate. We did a small Series A in October 2017, basically to fund the token campaign, and started off as one of the first security tokens out there. So it's essentially preferred equity without it doesn't come with government. So
Cool. Are you guys doing any more raises?
we're pretty happy where we are right now. We
Starting to make money.
yeah. Hey, we just closed like at the end of 2018. So
Oh, so just
I think we're good for now. Yeah.
Would you guys consider licensing your KYC AML?
Yeah, so we're not going to license anything, but we're making a lot of stuff open source. Stuff like the Investor Passport is going to be open sourced. S3 is open source. Our token clearing and settlement infrastructure is open sourced. we found that actually helps a lot with our partner integration and helps them develop and doesn't affect our operations at all. So in a negative way. So I think there's, we've learned even some other people like AirSwap, we talk to a lot of shares posts we talk to maybe once a week, and just kind of helping each other and sharing information. But we're not really in the business of white labeling, but helping where we can. I think we're definitely doing that. So
are any tokens that are traded on your platform going to be unique to your platform, or will they be fungible with other platforms?
Yeah, we love that. I don't think that we'll see that unless we OpenFinance token, I think, would be unique to us. I don't see T0 listing our token anytime soon, but that'd be great. But, there's a number of legacy issuers that have expressed interest in doing that. I think that's kind of the old school mindset, but the newer folks like the Blockchain Capital, Spice VC, or Pure Crypto, it's kind of a non-starter to be for a single listing.
Yep.
Okay, so just a few questions, I guess.
Sorry,
yeah, sure.
Up front, you had mentioned 20,000 users and 300 tokens.
Yeah.
Where are they? What you're talking the future, or
the 20,000 comes from probably 10,000 from our legacy business CFX, plus new signups is probably about 5. And then referrals from our partners and tokens that have listed is about 5. The pipeline of 300 is through all those issuance platform partnerships that I talked about. So if you look at like Securrency has 60, Polymath's got 60, Securitize has a bunch. They really drive the deal flow there. I think the market's kind of hurt. The early adopters, the stuff that we really thought would come up fast were tokenized funds and young funds that dealt mostly in crypto. And I think they got a little hurt last year, so it's slower to move. But you see like Harbor's coming out with that joint project with DRW. That's something we're really once we start to see some great products like that, those will start to mature a lot faster.
So are you going to be able to list those in batches? I mean, what type of, you've got two trading right now, right? So,
yeah.
So how do you go how do your partners go through you to list their whole catalog?
Oh, sure. So we've integrated completely with Securitize, their DS token. And basically we have their pipeline shared with us, and then we work with the issuer to come to an agreement whether they want to list with us as it goes in. But there's Polymath standard, which we've just about integrated with, TokenSoft. And basically once we've created that tech integration, it's a very fast onboarding process for them, especially if they're working with a broker-dealer. A lot of people are trying to do broker-dealer exemptions and basically just calling their ICO a securities offering and then doing it just as uncompliantly as before.
wasn't Blockchain Capital trading somewhere else before?
Yeah, they were trading on Ether Delta. They had to do reissuance. So it's a new Blockchain Capital token with the original cap table. They basically voided all the trades that happened.
So it's trading in one place under.
Yes, it's AirSwap did a trade of it, and Templum did a trade of it in February, but that was with the old token, and I'm not sure if that was fine.
What are your fees?
We are at 2.5 to the buyer, 1.5 to the seller, and then that's cut in half with the token, and then I think those compress pretty quickly. So
What's the percent?
that's a percentage. Yeah.
That's really high.
That's
insanely high.
Oh, I know. That's from the traditional. The traditional, there's with CFX, we're doing 10%. total. So, and that's like basically your private securities broker fees. So that I guarantee that comes down 10x by. So it's just
And your fees they're waived for some period of time, is that what you said?
yes. Undetermined right now, but for the next marketing team is figuring that out, but at least the next couple of months.
Going back to the question about the lag on confirmation.
Yes.
If I put a trade in, I can assume it's done, right? Even if I
Yeah, you will get a confirmation from OFN, but Ethereum, you won't be able to go to Etherscan and see the process trade until 30 seconds later. And that you'll actually be able to see it like it'll say pending, but settled. So that's why we leave 10 confirmations as a nice padding to make sure that's actually then just kind of a couple general questions I had. I think basically we're at a point now where we're starting to develop new features. So I would love to, I know a lot of people here have extensive trading experience, financial markets experience. So I'd love to hear what you would look for in the platform, what sort of features, what would get you to sign up.
What's the liquidity right now?
It's a little thin, but I'd say maybe 50 to 100,000 per token. It's 3 weeks in.
Per day? Or?
That's just like open sellers. I think we're at like 2,000 to 3,000 a day. So yeah, we third week or fourth week of trading, and we haven't actually started any sort of marketing push. So we're decently satisfied with those numbers, actually.
Do you know how that compares to your rivals?
No one's live.
Okay.
We're about 8 months ahead of everybody, is what you're told.
So if you're marketing to professional investors, high fees and low fill time aren't going to help you, right? Just if you're asking what people are going to want, you know, so 2.5% and then an 8-second, fill rate. Those don't sound like anything that's particularly appealing to me.
Well, maybe I'm not doing a great job in explaining the fill time. So it is filled instantly. It's basically like your T+2. That's actually settled in 8 seconds.
So the act comes back quickly.
Oh yeah.
But then the actual atomic transaction, the cash movement, comes back 8 seconds later. Is that what you're saying?
That's completely turned around.
Okay.
Right, so funds or coins are going to be tied up for some number of seconds before that's available to continue trading. So it's still going to be a problem for a market maker. Right. It needs to be able to make a two-sided market. Yeah. And every time a trade happens, one side of that's locked up for 10 seconds.
Right.
Kind of troublesome to be able to put in another quote.
Definitely.
Show
There's a few different types of market makers. We actually talked to a number who are experienced market making with DEXs, and that's kind of our early. I talked about the MetaMask experience without a fully fledged fixed API really built out. I think that's who I'm working with first. But I totally understand this.
What do you do to verify that the seller has the coin and that the buyer has the money?
So it's checked instantly by querying your wallet balance. Since it's a public account, we can basically.
So the wallets are online.
What's that?
The wallets
are. They have to be hot wallets.
Okay.
And you do give you set an allowance before you actually start trading. So.
Do you guys use only MetaMask in terms of Web3 wallets, or are you compliant with, say, Coinbase wallet or something like that? Because I think MetaMask is not, I think it's not forbidden maybe, but I've heard somewhere that some country in Asia, whether it's China or something like that, can't use MetaMask, so they use Coinbase's.
Coinbase?
Yeah.
Anything that manipulates Web3 or parity.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
Do you have some features that you're considering that you want a poll put out on, or are you looking for just open suggestions? I've been tweeting your points each time.
Yeah, I guess so. We're really, I think, trying to start to go after the traditional user now. So without getting, one of the big points is the MetaMask user experience and just self-custody in general. So how do you feel about decentralized or centralized exchange? How do you feel about custody, non-custodial or self-custody versus a centralized custody or even third-party custody? And is that, is using MetaMask a non-starter for you? So just kind of.
Well, I guess, we've talked to decentralized exchanges that still have this, browser plugin and stuff. That's not going to work for professional trading firm, right? Like, I've got to be able to hook up the trading server,
right,
with price feed and an order feed to your exchange, just like every other exchange in the world. Whether that's a crypto exchange or other. So we're not going to be running Chrome connected to the internet with a Chrome plugin.
Yeah, I mean, you could.
Right.
There's a I think that middle ground I was talking about is somewhere where you could basically sign with your keys over an API,
right,
and not have to deal with the browser section.
So it's fixed on the roadmap or something like that?
Yeah, and we're looking at that May.
Depending on throughput, fix might not be necessary.
Yeah,
It's still got to be
something.
Some
a
sort
real
of
end-to-end API.
exactly like WebSocket. Yeah, so. And then custody too. How are you guys custodying funds now? What do you look for?
Well, I think the challenge is it's fine to put assets on a major exchange because there's enough turnover that it's easy to justify putting assets there, right? With the DEXs, the big challenge is always if it's going to be if the funds are going to be locked up for the DEX, the challenge is none of the DEXs have any volume. So if I'm locking up funds, I can't really justify locking up capital for an exchange that doesn't trade, right? So it works. I think it's going to work better for the DEX model. I understand you've got bank relationships, and it's okay, fine, maybe we'll put some cash at the bank, but then that cash has to be available to do anything with it, not just be USD, right? I have to be able to be USD equivalent. Or, for my coins, if I can store my coins off your exchange in my wallets, and those can be available for multiple DEXs, then, simultaneously effectively,
right,
and only get locked up when I trade, that's going to be the only way I think this is going to work.
The other thing we're considering too is that the type of product that we're trading is something like an LP in a venture fund is going to be. Are people going to be okay with maybe second turnaround versus that they're used to trading it's at 8 weeks turnaround. So
people necessarily aren't going to be HFTing, some of these
right,
products.
is the HFT crowd going to even want to trade these products?
Well, I think that's right for a certain set of deals, but I think the promise of digitalization of assets comes down more to things that would have higher turnover. Right?
Yeah,
That's how you make money. It's how we make money, right? We make money on turnover, right? So if something's only going to trade once a day or twice a day, you're not going to get any market makers because I don't know what's worth. I don't know what every
and I think that's the interesting thing about these because it's so diverse in what's being offered. You have stuff like your blockchain capital as a positive, U.S. investors. Then there's stuff like someone tokenized a number of Picassos. There's real estate deals. There's companies starting to tokenize equity. So the velocity and dynamics are definitely so different all across
Those different types of
trading platforms. So it's prioritizing how we move away from, or either stick with, but most likely move away from browser-based self-custody.
What's the user profile? Who's using it?
We have, I'd say, 60% overseas total. I think, including the US, is 50% accredited. Mostly people in the 25 to 35 range. And we'll probably push a little bit more at first overseas, just because the Reg S securities can be traded after 40 days, whereas and most people that we've seen are doing a dual raise, so they're doing the Reg D and the Reg S.
40 or 30?
40. Yeah, lots of very interesting nuances to incorporate. It almost seems like sometimes we're looking at a reg tech company, because there's, if you meet reporting requirements under Reg D, you can resell it for 90 days to other accredited investors, but if you wait a year, you can sell it unaccredited. There's flowback restrictions. You can sell to if you're a Reg D, you can sell to a Reg S, vice versa. You have to meet certain requirements.
So the U.S. investors waiting to trade still? Or?
Yeah, the BCAP is technically open for their lockup ended in April 15th, 2018, but there's a few technical things they're working out with their partner. So they will be. We're hoping the next week or two they'll be open.
Would you be able to repeat the demographics one more time? I have 60% overseas.
About 50% of the platform is accredited, and the age range is mostly 25 to 35.
You say based on deposits made so far that most of those people that come in belong to the crypto sort of demographics?
I think so. I think people are starting to realize too. We're getting them on live chat. They're seeing they want to wire in $100. It's going to cost $55. Hey, why don't you try out Ether?
Yeah.
It costs you 6 cents to transfer. And they're kind of discovering it that way as well. So people are getting into like, well, where do I buy Ether? It's like, well, it's kind of a bit of a it's not as, I'll admit, it's not as straightforward as Coinbase has it down on our platform, but we do want to be able to offer that as well to international users.
Who does the conversion for Ether?
Wire, WYRE, so sendwire.com. They're working with TheraSwap. They work with our banks, Evolve and Synapse, and they're a newer company based in San Francisco. But they're very solid.
I don't understand why the U.S. investors haven't waited since April.
So the BCAP was, the Reg D restriction was lifted in April. At that point, the BCAP started trading on Ether Delta, which didn't do any KYC. So BCAP had to shut down trading, reissue a few months ago, and basically it's making sure that they don't want it to happen again. So they're making sure everything is solid. It is. So it's actually, BCAP's trading right now on OpenFinance, but to international users. So that would be any day now. Just kind of the tech is the solid stuff, which is good. It's the compliance that is taking a little bit longer. Just I think everybody on all sides is getting comfortable. You know, we are the first company they've ever approved to do this. FINRA has the SEC. You know, there's a lot of back and forth with them, but they're basically they stopped with their comments, and that. Yeah, I think that was really the longest battle we led. So I'll set it up there. Cool. Anyone else, or?
Besides your website and social media and things, how would you like people to, and if they have questions about this, I put it out on Twitter. Athena.
Thomas at OpenFinance.io, or my Twitter handle is TMAC.
Okay, I'll tag your Twitter in the tweet. That's okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and do you want to? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
What's Coinbase doing with security tokens?
They bought Benevate a few months ago. Benevate is a ATS set up for paper-based Reg D transfers. So they've got to upgrade that to digital securities and expand it to other digital securities besides just Reg D. They are not, they're pursuing it. We spoke with them. It seems like they're we spoke with them a few months ago. They said they're 8 months away. I think that's probably around the same time. Still, they're probably going to wait for the ecosystem to develop a little more. But they will be definitely playing in our same exact business. So got some heavy competition coming.
Yeah, but it's going to take them a while. Obviously, like with everything they did so far, they're usually pretty careful when they're doing new stuff. So I don't expect them for at least a year or two, honestly.
Yeah.
Would you call DX competitor heroes, or would you say that they're really trading these look-alike kind of pools, like you said?
Yeah, I've heard stuff back and forth about that. To be honest, I need to do more research. I don't know how well foreign companies do with U.S. public equities and actually holding them, and so I don't see why it should be a problem, but I don't know from a regulatory perspective. Assuming that they've got everything buttoned up, but I've also heard that they might not. So just going off, I don't want to go off and just gossip. I guess. I actually just only heard about them recently.
DX says it's coming, hold on, right?
Yeah.
The SEC says no comment, so probably talk
But they're operating abroad.
abroad only,
Right.
not US yet.
So how do you work around, like, how many of these tokens?
Sure. Oh, thanks. Thanks for coming. Did you hear?
Thanks a lot. All right.
Yeah.
We'll definitely get in touch.
Great.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you for coming.
How many of like internationally established projects, like I'll take the example of LXDX, for instance. I know that they're building a derivatives trading exchange, but they're securities, they have a security token raised right now. So do you expect like folks like that to register so that their token can be traded on?
We are, since we're U.S. ATS and broker dealer, we're only touching U.S. securities.
Okay.
U.S. securities are unique compared to the rest of the world in the sense that they can be basically traded anywhere. It's almost kind of like a pyramid where you have U.S. securities, European securities, which can be traded in Europe, and a lot of other places, but not the U.S. And then you have like, say, I don't know what the actual structure is, but just for example's sake, it's then Southeast Asia, some companies there might be tradable only in local places there, but not Europe or the US. And then down. So they're super flexible in the sense that a lot of people will be able to trade. Spice VC was issued under Reg S. That will be tradable all across the world. We have a huge advantage over international companies in the sense of being a U.S. company. it's always going to be done.
It's a
right.
bigger market, let's face it,
Yeah.
yeah.
You're going to be speaking at 2 conferences. Do you want to
Yes,
talk about that?
BlockchaingeDC on Monday, Washington DC, and then North American Bitcoin Conference on Friday. These are both next week. On panel with Drew, Athena, and that's
Is OFN trading, eBay trading?
the OFN token. No, we have about 40 days of lockup. Or, well, we closed at, hang on a second. What's the 31 days of lockup until it starts trading.
I assume it's tightly held, small community.
How many investors?
What's up?
Probably about 25.
And the only place where you'll be able to purchase it is OpenFinance itself?
After Securitize is closed, yeah. We'll have tokens available for sale.
For like what other proxy, like is that going to be Ethereum or USD? How do you anticipate the purchase?
It'll be in USD.
USD?
Yeah, everything's in USD.
Okay.
So for now.
Do you have a view on liquidity? I mean, do you have people that look at this and figure out what's going to happen once it does open up for trading?
Yeah, we've talked to a lot of people. People do have a lot of market makers lined up. There's a lot of people that are still figuring it out. It differs so much, I think, from token to token. There's some people like Spice VC are at an advantage because most of their investor base is overseas. Reg S has very little limitations. And then if you take a look at like Blockchain Capital, they're mostly in the US. And their liquidity options are going to be a lot different. Hitting that 99 share.
And since OFN token is an ERC20, you can keep it in your MetaMask wallet?
Yes, you can. So the MetaMask needs to be registered through our investor passport.
Okay.
So it's ERC20 interface, and then there's that permission layer, the compliance layer, which basically you can't just send it like to my ETH wallet. You have to register that address with the investor passport.
And it's only going to be able to be kept on that address, which is verified, right?
Right. Yeah. So we're worried about breaking the chain of compliance. Like if you, for instance, gave your private key to a friend, they would have access to all your tokens, and that's essentially just basically transfer. They could start selling your shares.
Yeah, even though they're not
breaking the chain of compliance. That actually not only gets us in trouble, but if that person goes to the shares post or AirSpot or T0 and trades those tokens, they can turn around and come after us as well.
Wow.
Because they would get in trouble too.
So do you have like some sort of, I don't know, how do you guys protect yourselves?
Yeah, so there's a few layers of protection. The token has a built-in permission layer, the compliance layer. The investor passport checks to make sure that the chain of custody is only, so you can only register to the one address at the time. And then we have a compliance API that is basically, since we have the ETS is actually, you go through our broker dealer to get to the ETS. That's the whole subscription model will come in.
So basically, if I try to send the tokens, where they become invaluable to the receiver?
Yeah, if you try to send them to an address that's not, so people could go through KYC on things. If they're through Spice VC, they could be KYC'd on Securitize's platform. They could be KYC'd. Maybe someone's using Civic. They could do that way.
Okay, yeah.
They could be KYC'd through AirSwap. Basically, they get added to this whitelist. And then they could, once you're on that whitelist, you can and it does allow you to distinguish between if someone is a U.S. resident, a Reg D should be applied, or if someone is an international resident, they should fall under Reg S. Yeah.
And the Passport API supports multiple different whitelists?
Yes. Yes.
How many projects do use that digital passport protocol now?
So ours?
Yeah.
So we're trying to standardize it. A lot of people have taken interest in it, and it's being developed for a lot of overseas partners. I think that's what the most interest is, because there's a lot of investment interest from Southeast Asia, but they don't know the first thing about compliance. So they want to adopt that, and then our issuance platform partners too. Polymath was looking at it. TokenSoft, Securitize.
Yeah, I read that somewhere.
Yeah.
That's why I asked you.
Yeah, so we're hoping you don't have to use our interface. It doesn't need to say OpenFinance, but if you basically standardize the forms and use the API, that's what
Do you have any plans to support Stellar?
Actually, very interesting question. So I'm in talks with the Stellar team about potentially taking on integrating Stellar, maybe even integrating Stellar X or Dex. So we do have active conversations going with them. It's gonna be the next thing we integrate is gonna be whoever has the most potential. I really like Stellar. They're a very strong contender too. Hashgraph, we've talked to OneChain, we've talked to who else? Raven is the DG Ventures. That's not gonna happen.
Hashgraph would be awesome.
Yeah, Raven Coin is funded entirely by Overstock. So
So it's T0 and all that.
yeah, it's decent. I think we'll see. I don't know if anything yet has been issued. Some interesting projects.
So what do you think of T0?
I've heard they're doing prime brokerage now, and they're kind of focusing on that. They're supposed to launch tomorrow, so we'll see. It could be. But the letter said they should. Because the Reg D investors have their 90-day liquidity is open tomorrow. So they said they'll have some sort of trading platform or place to trade. It might be OTC. I know that's what a lot of other people are doing right now. Like AirSwap and SharesPost are getting set up for. So they'll be soon, I think. It's pretty interesting that Patrick decided to sell out Overstock and focus on T0. The company GSR, it's kind of a bummer for them. I've heard they've had a reputation of pulling out deals at the last minute. So just for the good of the ecosystem, I hope that goes through. But they still raised a shit ton of money in their STO. So I think we'll be okay.
Great.
Awesome. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
Yeah. Everybody grab a card and stickers if you want. Yeah.
Be in touch.